This video is sponsored by Brilliant, but more on them later in the video. What do you think Naruto always challenging people trying to prove them wrong, and Rock Lee's daily workout routine? And since we're at it, you can hear Soma always challenging people to shokugekis. What do you think all those have in common? These are all examples of what is known as Keystone Habits. In the book Power of Habits, a Keystone Habit is defined as small changes or habits that people introduce into their routines that unintentionally carry over into other aspects of life. It's essentially a habit that if you manage to sustain, pays off huge dividends across all aspects of your life. I would argue that Rock Lee's daily exercising routine is that foundational keystone habit that allowed him to become an amazing shinobi despite only being able to use taijutsu. And Naruto always facing up to challenges, impossible challenges even, always trying to prove people wrong. I would say that is a keystone habit that allowed him to truly become who he was meant to be. And infinitely less cool, I also have my own keystone habit, which is live streaming study with me's 3 times a week for 2 hours each. This is the habit that's allowed me to save $100,000, exercise at least 3 times a week, learn how to trade, start my personal finance journey, and it's also allowed me to wake up at 6 in the morning and be just far more disciplined as a person. So still infinitely less cool than anime characters, but by real life standards, not bad, I would say. So in this video, I'm going to talk about first how keystone habits work. And number 2, instead of telling you guys just a list of keystone habits to try out, I want to show you guys a criterion for how I think you should go about choosing a keystone habit that works the best for you. With that being said though, there are patterns of keystone habits that tend to work well for a lot of different people. So I'm going to share with you guys some examples of these, and hopefully one of these resonates with you or inspires you to find your keystone habit. Sound good? Let's go. Studies have shown that keystone habits are definitely a thing, and there's also a lot of anecdotal accounts of people implementing a keystone habit and then just having that ripple throughout their lives and just dramatically change their life for the better. However, while doing research into keystone habits, surprisingly, there's actually not much research done into why keystone habits work. But from what I can gather, it has a lot to do with being able to build up confidence. And this confidence allows you to start a positive feedback loop and build more and more good habits and potentially more difficult habits to build. The best keystone habits are more than just those that enable immediate benefits. This might sound pretty abstract, so let me give you guys some concrete examples. Say having a habit of a daily workout routine, like Rock Lee. That directly makes him more fit and master taijutsu and allows him to keep progressing as a shinobi, eventually even opening up all 8 gates. It also starts that positive feedback loop of having more energy and more confidence that he can become a shinobi, an amazing shinobi, despite only having taijutsu. Now for both Naruto and Yukihime Soma from Food Wars, by always wanting to prove people wrong, whereas in Soma's case, challenging people to shokugekis, they're able to push themselves outside their comfort zones and just learn really, really quickly. Because they're always pushing themselves into situations that other people wouldn't even think about doing, they end up doing things that other people wouldn't even think of doing, far exceeding what people thought that they're capable of. A great keystone habit is reading. So obviously from reading, you learn a lot of different things. What really makes reading powerful is that all this information that you're gathering, you're able to apply all these different perspectives, all this different knowledge into your own life and keep bettering it in this snowball effect. And people like Warren Buffett and Bill Gates talk a lot about how much they read and how much that has helped them become successful. Next up, let's talk about the criterion, which helps you determine if a habit is considered a keystone habit and if it's right for you. No matter how good a habit is, if you're unable to actually incorporate that and sustain that in your life, then it's useless. Well, I express myself best through anime characters. So since I use Naruto a lot, I figured let's switch it up a little. Rock Lee is one of my favorite characters. And every time I think of Rock Lee, I just think of the springtime of youth. Okay, so there's 4 components which I think you should use to evaluate a keystone habit. The first one is that it has to be small and/or something that you feel really compelled to do. For Rock Lee's daily workout routine, it's not necessarily small, but he feels extremely compelled to do it because he really wants to be a shinobi, and for him it's like a lifeline. It's like the only thing that he can grab onto to fulfill that dream, to become better at taijutsu, seeing as all the other options are not available to him. Also having my guide there definitely gives him hope and gives him a compelling reason to keep going. Number 2, it should be something that you have control over. For Rock Lee's workout routine, he's able to do the jumping ropes, he's able to do the push-ups, do the sit-ups, and do the kicks. It's hard, but he has control control over it, which is unlike, say, ninjutsu or genjutsu, which no matter how hard he tries, he just doesn't have that control over it. Third component of what makes a good keystone habit is one in which you can feel instant gratification after doing it.
Run into the setting sun. Run and suffer. But don't mess up your hair.
Exercise in general, both in anime and outside of anime, has amazing health benefits. I'm sure he gets a boost of energy and endorphins just by doing exercise. And for him, another instant gratification is probably the feeling of progress towards becoming better. And also because he does a lot of this exercise with Mic Guy, it probably also provides instant gratification when they're both completing something. The fourth component of a good keystone habit for you is something that is foundational, that's able to produce foundational changes outside of the immediate benefits of that habit. For example, it makes him a better shinobi, it makes him stronger as immediate benefits, but it also goes beyond that. It makes him more disciplined, it gives him more energy, and it gives him more confidence. As James Clear puts it, the final kind of form of a habit is if you can incorporate that into your own self-identity. And in Rock Lee's case, that workout routine is definitely incorporated into his self-identity. Now let's take a moment to talk about today's sponsor, Brilliant. If you guys have watched this channel for a while, you would know that I am someone who really encourages project-based learning and interactive learning. And Brilliant really encompasses that. Brilliant is an interactive online platform that teaches fun, hands-on lessons in math, science, and computer science for all abilities and knowledge levels. It's not just generic questions from textbooks. It actually teaches you to do your own problem solving. And it gives you clear, intuitive answers for how to approach a question, how to think about a question, as opposed to just straight out give you the answer. For me, I actually first came across Brilliant a couple years back when I was preparing for my interview for the data science position that I have now. Specifically, it was for the math and statistics portion of my interview. I wanted to brush up on the math and stats, and I came across like a Reddit post that said that Brilliant is a great way of doing it. So I signed up for Brilliant and did portions of different classes, such as probability fundamentals, casino probability, random variables and distributions, as well as stats fundamentals and stats 1. So I have to give Brilliant a lot of credit for me actually passing that interview, because I was able to brush everything up with minimal pain. In fact, it was actually kind of fun. And then I ended up paying for an annual subscription, which I used to fill in other gaps in my math knowledge specifically. Because some of you may know that I don't have a really strong formal math background, and a lot of what I know is self-taught. So there are definitely gaps in my knowledge. So yeah, would highly recommend you guys checking out Brilliant if you have a data science interview coming up and such where you want to strengthen your STEM knowledge and problem solving. They have so many different courses, including machine learning if you guys are interested in that. You can get started for free by signing up at this link over here, also linked in descriptions. The first 200 people also get a 20% off discount on their annual membership. All right, back to the video. All right, real life example of why live streaming 3 times a week to study with me is so much of a keystone habit for me. So first criterion of small and such were compelling to do. I made the habit small by not goaling myself on how productive I was in the study session. My habit is just showing up and live streaming. I also add on that double dose of making it super compelling for me, because if I don't show up, I'm potentially disappointing over 100 people. And that's enough to get me out of bed. Every time. Second component of a good keystone habit for you is having control over it. For me, I have a lot of control over these live streams 3 times a week because I do it early in the morning. If, for example, I did it later at night, I'm pretty sure that there will be times in which my work spills over and I just simply won't be able to keep that habit. Third criterion is something that you feel good about. For me, learning early in the morning feels amazing because I immediately feel super productive. By the time it ends, it's around like 9 o'clock. I already feel like I already accomplished so much, even though the day is just starting. And also being able to interact with the community, check on how people are doing, it feels really, really good to me. And I look forward to that a lot. And the fourth criterion of that foundational change. For the live streams, I'm learning a lot of stuff, right? Because I slowly incorporate the things that I'm learning into my life, like trading, like personal finance. These are all skills and knowledge that I have learned from this habit, which then I can improve my life through it. And in addition to that, it helps me build discipline. The fact that I have to get up at 6 in the morning, that in itself is also an unintentional benefit that came out from this. So let's move on to the next section in which I talk about some examples of keystone habits, which hopefully give you some inspiration and some ideas. Some other great keystone habits come from what is considered the health trinity, which is sleep, food, and exercise. Sleeping could be something like always going to bed at a specific time. And if you're interested in more benefits of sleeping properly, you should definitely check out this book over here. And food, being able to eat healthily and have proper nutrition has rippling effects throughout your life. And exercise. There's this saying that if you could put exercise into a pill form, that would be the most valuable drug in the world because there's just so many benefits from exercising, both physically and mentally. A couple other ones that have worked for other people is waking up early in the morning at a specific time, as well as making your bed in the morning. Go through that criterion I talked about earlier and see if it really is a good keystone habit for you, because again, even if it's an amazing habit, an amazing keystone habit, if that's not something that resonates with you, that's not something that works for you, then it's absolutely useless. And that's a segue into the fourth section of this video, which is some practical advice for choosing and incorporating that keystone habit into your life. I've tried so many of these until I figured out the live streaming one that works well for me. Like, it's really hard for me to develop habits, like, because I'm super lazy. I needed to do something that really resonated with me, which learning for me has always been that. It makes me feel amazing when I do that. And I also had to incorporate that community aspect, which again gives me a boost of like wanting to do it. Just like making it into a smaller habit wasn't enough for me. Like, I needed that compelling reason of showing up because I could potentially disappoint over 100 people. And that is finally what made that habit stick for me. So yes, long story short, don't be disappointed if you try out some of these and they just don't stick for you. Another tip is that you want your habit to be something that is very incorporated into your life. Ideally, you want something that maybe you do every day or even multiple times a day, because that really ingrains it into your head, into your routine, and eventually you allow it to incorporate into your own self-identity. I hope this was a helpful video and you're able to get some inspiration and how to think about keystone habits and how to incorporate that into your own life. I will see you guys in the next video or live stream.